What's up, everybody? It's me, Ronald Young Jr. And before we get started today, I wanted to remind you that we're in the middle of our Patreon drive for Leaving the Theater. You may have heard me mention this before, but this podcast is entirely independent, which means we don't get a production budget from anywhere except my pockets. So if you enjoy the show and want it to continue consistently, please consider joining the Patreon. It helps to pay for studio time and distribution fees, as well as booking event space for our live shows coming up later this year. And speaking of live shows, when you join the Patreon, you get access to a code that gets you 50% off tickets. So you definitely want to take advantage of that. Most of all, know that contributing to the Patreon is something that you can feel good about because it directly impacts the show. If you're ready to help, go to the show notes and click the link, or go to patreon.com/leavingthetheater right now. That's patreon.com/leavingthetheater, or again, go to the link in our show notes. All right, let's start the show. All my life I had to fight. And also, all my life, I've been interacting with that line. Whether it was spoken by Oprah Winfrey in the 1985 Steven Spielberg adaptation of the classic Alice Walker novel, or when I saw it spoken by the great Frenchie Davis in the musical adaptation of the same novel performed in 2022 at the Signature Theater in Shirlington, Virginia. This time, it's spoken by Danielle Brooks in the film adaptation of the musical adaptation of the classic Alice Walker novel, The Color Purple. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing The Color Purple. The Color Purple, written by Marcus Gardley, directed by Blitz Bazawule, starring Fantasia Barrino, Taraji P. Henson, Danielle Brooks, Colman, Domingo, Corey Hawkins, her, Ciara, Halle Berry, John Batiste, and Gossett Jr. And per usual, for a complete cast listing, you can go to the link in our show notes. All right, The Color Purple. This is actually an adaptation of the Broadway musical, which is an adaptation of the book by Alice Walker. There's also a film that came out in the late 80s, early 90s by Steven Spielberg, starring Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah Winfrey, that is beloved by Black communities across the world, mainly in the United States, but also across the world, probably mainly in the United States, to be honest, if I'm being honest. I don't know how much that proliferated outside of our culture, but it's definitely a beloved movie amongst Black Americans. That being said, this is for people that are walking into this just thinking that they just turned Color Purple into a musical. There was a few adaptations in front of you. I saw the musical for the first time last year, and I got really excited about the fact that they were making a movie out of this. And I was looking forward to this. They've dropped it at the end of the year. They're obviously looking for Oscar buzz, and I think this is going to definitely swing in that direction. For anyone that's watched the original Color Purple, much of the story has not changed. There's music and stuff that is added in, but the story is largely the same. You have Celie, who is the main character. It is kind of following her life and her relationship with her sister, Nettie. And it kind of follows the path that she takes from marrying an abusive husband and kind of the path it takes from then on, like with the people in her community. All of the usuals are there. If you've seen the original, Sophia's in this, Harpo's in this. The only difference is that they are singing. And in a lot of cases, they're still saying the lines that we love that are from the film, from the original film. When I say original film, from the film adaptation of the book that came out in the late 80s or 90s, they're still doing those same things, except this time they're singing. I really like this movie. I felt a lot of feelings watching it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed the musical, which I really loved. Like, if I had to rate the musical, I'd probably give it 5 out of 5 stars. This was not quite that. What I did enjoy about this was the performances from people who kind of lived up to the expectations. Now, there were a lot of, I think they call it stunt casting or star casting, whatever you want to call it, where you kind of put people in that are recognizable names that'll bring people out to the theater. And I think in some cases, I don't know how much of I enjoyed that. Specifically, I'm thinking of her as Squeak, it was funny because I was sitting with somebody at the movie who is actually standing close to me but doesn't want to be on tape. And I did not recognize her when I saw her until she turned to me and said, "That's her." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess that makes sense." Other than that, I don't know, except for marketing the movie, what she brought that was anything that was, I think, notable to the cast. That being said, Danielle Brooks, I think was the breakout performance of this movie. She is the one that should be first in line getting Oscars. I would also I think you kind of have to look at you kind of have to look at Taraji P. Henson. I think you kind of got to look at Taraji P. Henson as well, because she is a veteran. She has, been nominated before, and she obviously came and did a great job in this one. But that being said, I think the breakout star of this movie is Danielle Brooks. She should 100% be nominated. She should be the front runner, if we're being honest. And I also think Fantasia definitely deserves a nod. I don't know if the lead actress is hers to lose necessarily, but she did a very good job, and she should be a strong contender. She should 100% be nominated. Like, in a year after years of us saying Oscars so white, like over and over again, I feel like this is a year where if people aren't nominated heavily because of this movie, we should burn Utica to the ground. Like, we should be very, very, very upset. I think there's no way in the world that you look at a film like this, especially with the stuff that's probably going to be that it's up against this year, which isn't that strong of a year. It's not a super strong year. There should be no reason why a movie like Color Purple can't be nominated. I know it's going to get costume design. I know it's going to get set design, production, whatever. But I don't see why they would not also get these acting awards, and it's probably going to get nominated for Best Film as well, Picture of the Year. I don't know why I'm blanking on what the actual award is called. Anyway, that all being said, really enjoyed it. I think Colman Domingo did a great job. He did good enough to be nominated. I would hate to see him nominated because I hate him in this role, and I hate Mr. with a passion. He's one of the most evil characters that I've ever seen in my entire life. But I don't know. It wasn't so much that, the performance was good, and I hated him a lot. So that meant that the performance was good. With all of that being said, I think this could have been a 5-star movie, except for there were some just drawbacks that really bothered me. I think the lighting was terrible. I think there were several times in which the people were dancing and their faces were covered in shadow, and I don't think it was intentionally. The costumes popped. The costume colors popped. It seemed like they devoted a lot of the lighting to making sure that the colors popped. The dancing scenes were all good. The music was all good. But again, there was something about the lighting, and if you watch this movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's just a few times in which people's faces seem to be shrouded in shadow, and I'm not sure they did that on purpose, especially like we live now in a place where, or we exist now in a place where with Insecure, we know how to like black folks. So it made me wonder a little bit. And then the other thing was there were a few song numbers that felt like they were extra. They weren't from the musical. They definitely made it for the movie. And it felt like the director kind of wanted to add his own flair, which wasn't bad. The set pieces weren't bad. They just felt out of place. There's one particular scene in which Celie is singing next to a chain gang, and I don't understand why it was a chain gang. I was like lost on that. And I don't know if I missed something from the original book or movie, but it just felt unusual to me. So with all of that being said, I give this a solid 4 stars of 5 stars. I'm going to bump it up to 4.25. I think this is a 4.25 star movie. It's very good. I think it should be nominated for things. I think it's very good. I think it should be nominated for things. I'm excited to hear what other folks have to say about it as well. And with all of that, Leaving the Theater is a production of OhitsBigRon Studios. Alexandra Ketch of Bias Studios mixes the show. Thank you, Alex. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. For more information about The Color Purple, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or Threads at OhitsBigRon. That's at OhitsBigRon. You can find out more about this show and other OhitsBigRon Studio shows by following us on Instagram at OhitsBigRon Studios and on Twitter at OhitsBigRon Stu. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening. Yeah, you want to say something? You can come over. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Stay over there and be quiet. So we're friends. It's all good. I don't know what she brought.